Yes, how I had, Matt hadn't made any sound. A boy and her had reached out and somehow caught hold of Matt's arm. Where have you come from? She demanded. Why are you here? Matt screamed, embarrassed to be all held by her. I've come from Lester Malling, he said. We wanted to know about a book your mother wrote. Come into the house. The woman said I can help you, but you must come in. Matt glanced at Richard. Richard, who struggled. The two of them went inside. Miss Ashford led them into a wide area corridor. The house was Victorian, but then had been carefully modernised with oak floors, concealed lighting, and floor-to-ceiling window were paintings on the walls, mainly expensive abstracts. Matt couldn't help wondering for who benefit they were, since the owner couldn't see them. Of course, it was always possible that the woman had a husband and family, yet at the front door he had got the impression that this was someone who was already alone. She laid them into a living room with low leather sofas and gestured at them to sit down. A polished grand piano, brilliant black, and stood in the corner. Which of my mother's books brought you all this way? She asked. It was a book about Lester Malling, Richard said. Matt decided to cut straight to the point. We need to know about Ravensgate. The woman became very still. It was hard to read her emotions behind the black glasses, but Matt could sense her excitement. So you found me, she whispered. Do you know what it is? Susan Ashwood made no reply. The two black circles were fixed on Matt, and he felt uncomfortable. Waiting to move, he knew she could see nothing at all, and wished she wouldn't stare at him in this way. Is your name Matt? She inquired. Yes. How did you know that? Richard asked. I know you would come, Miss Ashwood said. She was ignoring Richard. All her attention was focused on Matt. I know you would find me. It was meant to happen this way. I'm just glad you've arrived in time. What are you talking about? Richard was getting angry. I think we're at cross purpose, he went on. We come to see your mother. I know, she told me. You'd seen her book. I thought you said she was dead. For the first time she turned to Richard. You didn't know who I am. Sure, Richard struggled at Matt. You Susan Ashwood. You haven't heard of me? I don't mean to be rude, but should I are you have are you? Famous, what do you do? Do you play the piano? By the way of any answer, the woman fumbled on a table beside the sofa. She picked up a business card and handed it to Richard. He turned it over and read, Susan Ashford, physical and spiritualistic, a link with the other side. You're a medium? What? Matt asked. Miss Ashford talks to ghosts. Explain or that's what she believes. I talk to the dead in just the same way that I am talking to you, and if you could hear them, you would know that there is a great about to happen. You would know that there is a great up heavenly in the spirit world. Terrible things are about to happen. Indeed, they are already happening. That is what brought you here to my house. What brought me to your house, Richard asked, was the M62 motorway from Leeds. It looks to me like I was wasting my time. He stood up. Let's go, Matt. If you leave this room without hearing what I have to say, you will be making the greatest mistake of your life. That's what you say. M62 motorway from Leeds. You are involved in something bigger and more incredible than anything you could imagine. Like it or not, you have begun a journey without knowing it, and there can be no going back. I'm going back right now. Right now, Richard said you can make light of it, but you have no idea what is happening. I feel sorry for you, Mr. Cole, because you see there are two worlds. Uh, the two worlds, the world you understand and the world you don't. Those worlds exist side by side sometimes, only centimeters apart, and the great mystery of people spend their eternal lives in one without being aware of the other. It's like living on one side of a mirror. You think there is nothing on the other side until one day I switch this phone and suddenly the mirror is transparent. You see the other side. That was what happened to you. The day you heard about Raven's Gate, nothing can be the same for you anymore. It's as I say, you have begun a journey. You must continue to the end. What exactly is Raven's Gate? Matt asked. I can tell you, I know how unreasonable it must sound, but you have to understand. Miss Ashford took a deep breath. I belong to organize, she continued. I suppose you might say we're a security, but I'd put it another way. I'd say we're a sorority that looks after secrets. You mean like M16? Richard muttered. We call ourselves the Nexus, Mr. Cole. And if you know more about us, who we are, what we represent, perhaps you'll be a little less sarcastic. But as much as I want to do, I can't speak to you on my own. You have to come with me to London. There's a man you must meet. His name is Professor Sanjay Dravid. Dravid Matt know the name. He'd had it somewhere before. This is ridiculous. Richard inserted. Why do you have to drag us all the way to London? Why can't you tell us what we want to know here and now? Because I swore an oath that I would never talk about this with anyone. We all did what. Well, however, if you come with me to London, if you meet the Nixes, then we can help you. You want to learn about Ravensgate? We'll tell you everything you want to know and more, and how much money will it cost us to join this Nixes? Richard demanded. Miss Ashford sat upright in the chair, and Matt could sense how angry she was. Her fists were clenched when she spoke. Her voice was utterly cold. "I know what you think of me," she began. "You imagine I'm some sort of a con artist. I sit in this house and I try to frighten people, to cheat them out of money. I call myself a physical, so I must be afraid fraud. I tell stories about ghosts and spirits and weak Gulbury people believe me." She paused, but the boy understands. She can continue. She turned to face Matt. "You believe me, don't you, Matt? You know about magic. I felt your power the moment you come here. I have never felt such strength before." "Where is Professor David?" Matt asked. "In London." "I told you, if you want to come with me, at least give me your telephone number. Let him speak with you. I'm not giving my number to anyone." Richard said, "And I don't care what you say, Miss Ashford. We come here with a simple question. If you're not going to give us an answer, we might as well leave." Professor Dravid is at the Natural History Museum in South Kensington. That's where you'll find him. "Sure, we'll send you a postcard." Richard stood up and more or less dragged Matt out of the room. The car was parked opposite the house. They got in and Richard searched in his pockets for the keys. Matt could see that he was rattled. "Actually, a man called David continued me," he said. "What?" "When I was at the library in Greater Malling, I was on the internet and he popped up. You know, in a pop-up window. What did he say?" "I was doing a I was doing a search on Ravensgate and he wanted to know why." "What did you tell him?" "I didn't tell him anything." Well, you can forget about seeing him." Richard had found the keys. He started the car and they drove off. "We're not going to London, Matt. I can't believe I drove all the way." Here from York, just to talk to a woman who was obviously out of a tree. You're not going to tell me you're beloved, are you? Beloved, are you? Matt looked back and watched as the house disappeared behind them. I wonder, he said. Page 203. The tax dropped them off at the National History Museum in London, in West London. Richard paid the fare. I don't know how I'll let you talk to me into this, I said. I didn't say anything, Matt protested. You were the one who wanted to see David. You were the one who called him. It was true. When they had got back to York, Richard had checked David out on the internet. It turned out that the professor had an interactive person born in the Indian city of Madras. He had become a world expert on anthropology, ethology, prehistory, and a dozen of other related areas. He had written books and presented television programs. There were over 100 websites featuring his name, the most recent of which contained an exhibition about dinosaurs. It was opening at the museum in less than a week's time. David had organised it and written the catalogue. In the end, Richard had decided to call him he'd expert to be given the brush off. Perhaps he'd even hoped that would happen, but David had been eager to meet them. They made an appointment for the following day at 6 o'clock after the museum closed. Matt examined the Great Guard Victorian building. It looked like something out of a fairy tale, with its terracotta and blue bricks in its Gothic towers and its menagerie of carved stone animals poking out of every nook and corner. Was a stream of people pouring out of the main entrance down the curved walkways past the line of white iron lamps and on to the lawns on either side. Let's go in, Richard said. They went up to the gate where a security guard stood, blocking their way. I'm very sorry, he said. You're too late for today. We have an appointment with Professor David, Richard told him. Professor David, yes, sir, of course. You can ask at the inquiry desk. They climbed the steps and went in. There was certainly plenty of dinosaurs. As Matt entered the museum, he was greeted by the black skull of a huge creature. The skull was at the end of an engalactic neck suspended from an arch that swept over the entrance. He looked around him. The dinosaur skeleton was the centerpiece in a vast hall which its many arches, its glass and steel roof, its broad staircase and mosaic floor looked like a cross between a cathedral and a railway station. They went to the inquiry desk, which, like the rest of the museum. My name is Richard Cole. I'm here to see Professor David. Ah, yes, the professor is expecting you. His office is on the first floor. A second guard pointed at a stone staircase that led up to a balcony overlooking the main entrance hall. They walked towards it, passing many other dinosaur skeletons, some in glass cases, others standing free. A last remaining visitor went by on their way out. The museum seems bigger and somehow more mysteries now that it was empty day. And somehow more mysteries now that it was empty. They climbed the stone stairs and continued along a corridor to a solid wooden door. Richard knocked and they went in. Professor Sanjay Dravid was sitting in the middle of a room, stacked high with books, magazines, files, and loose bundles of paper. The walls were covered with sheets, graphs, and maps. He was typing something into the laptop and working at a desk, which was itself crowded with more papers, dozens of specimens in a glass case, bits of bone and pieces of crystal and stone. He was in his late 40s. Matt thought his hair was black and neat, brushed, and he had dark tried eyes. His jacket hung over the back and his chair. Professor David, Richard asked. The man looked up. "You're Richard Cole." He finished typing a sentence, pressed enter, and closed the laptop. "Susan Aswood telephoned me after she met you." His voice was warm and cultured. "I'm glad you decided to get in touch." Read more. That was the story. Subscribe, hit bell, share, like. Thank you. Watch my other videos. Thank you.